on this cold evening. We're going to go ahead and take roll.
Funderburg.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lopez.
Here.
McFarland.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Zimmers.
Here.
That is 6 present.
Mr. Fomini, as you can see, is not here this evening. I think he has about the flu. I met with him earlier today, and he was not feeling well, so that's his reason for not being here tonight. President's comments. Ms. Moore, Mr. Lopez, myself, and the superintendent, and Julie, the week before Thanksgiving holiday, went to the Illinois School Board Association's annual convention in Chicago. Really glad it went. Got to see a lot of good things, a lot of good information. The one thing that stuck out in my mind that made the whole trip for me was we were able to take a visit to Fenger High School, which 6 years ago was designated as one of the most dangerous high schools in the nation. 5 years ago, new principal Liz Dozier took over that building. She has made a remarkable transformation in that building in the last 5 or 6 years. When she took over, they were only graduating 4 out of 10 students. They're now graduating 8 out of 10. We got to meet with quite a few students when we were there. A lot of these students are college bound. They were actually doing applications as we were in the building to different colleges and universities across the United States. Part of what they have done there, they really have built relationships at the school. That's one of the key things that they have done. They know the families well. They know the students well. The principal and the staff there have done some remarkable things. One of the things that they've done, there's restorative justice, which the superintendent and I have kind of looked into and are very interested in. It's an alternative to suspending kids from school, expelling kids. It's just another step in the process which they have instituted, which is working for them. We can't educate students if we don't have them in our buildings, and that's a step that we might definitely take a look at. We have another organization in town, Race Unity, who has held a couple of forums around restorative justice and brought people in to speak to the community. This is actually a community effort that we're trying to get underway here in Springfield. The school district is probably a little more ready to get this off the ground than other agencies in town. Nothing has been said here. We're just in early discussion about this, but it is really something I think we need to take a look at. There are other communities in central Illinois that have already started this process. Champaign schools, there are a few schools there that do it. Peoria, some more schools downstate that have looked into. Decatur possibly is doing some of it. So
Champaign
is. Peoria, I know for sure. And a lot of Chicago area schools, so it's something we'll definitely kind of look into, see if we can get some training around it, see what interest we have on the board and then in the school district and on the cabinet for it. But we were very impressed with what we saw there. So, having said that, we'll start with board salutes, and why don't we start this week with you?
I have none.
All right. Did you want to talk, have you had a round table meeting since we?
Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah, well, you want to go ahead and talk about that, discuss that, what you did in the round table?
We had our meeting, I think, about 2 weeks ago at Grant Middle School Library. Not all of the representatives were there, but a majority of them were. And we came up with a tentative list of goals that we wanted to have. They're not exactly set in stone just yet because we want to have more discussion on what exactly we want our goals to be. And we focus more on having all the representatives meet with like their student council and their PBIS teams at their school, or possibly forming one at Southeast since they don't exactly have one yet. And we also focused on how we can reach out to the middle schoolers and other ways that we can get communication back and forth between the student body and the representatives so that students aren't left in the dark in issues that affect them primarily. And it was a really good meeting overall, but hopefully next time we'll have everyone there so we can make a set list of goals and discuss any of the ideas that we had at last meeting. Thank you.
Could you, while you're speaking, can you tell us a little bit more about your PBIS group at Springfield High and also the group that Lanford's starting? And I'm understanding you're trying to get a group started Southeast also. Because this is a very unique thing you guys are doing. Very few people, very few high schools are doing this across the United States.
It's a group of 4 students from each grade level and administration. So, for example, at Springfield, there are 2 girls and 2 boys from each grade level, and we have our primary person in front of discipline, which would be Lori Smith right now. Teresa Greco, she also sort of like the head of our BSM team, and then various teachers who volunteered to be on the team. And the way each students are selected by Ms. Greco went to each of the teachers and asked them who were the leaders that they saw in their classrooms, their best students who were like best representatives of Springfield High. And we all came together and started talking about ways that we could improve our environment in our school and how we can make a more positive experience for both staff and students. I just joined the team last year, but it was going on, I think, at least a year or 2 before I actually joined. And at Lanphier, they're starting a similar team. We helped assist with them coming up with their own team. I don't think any of our representatives are on the Lanphier team, which is one of the reasons why I wanted them to go and talk with them, figure out who's on the team. And so what we want to do is have representatives assist the PBIS teams in improving their own schools, and then when we all come together, we can possibly have a meeting of all the schools' PBIS teams, so then we can figure out how we want to improve the district as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you for reporting out on that. That's great.
And Lanphier, your representatives did go back and ask, because Mr. Doss and I did a walkthrough the other day, and he said they came right back and asked, so they're excited.
Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Funderburg?
No.
Johnson?
Actually, I did just a few things. I attended the MRAC meeting, the minority recruitment, and I also attended the security meeting, which were both on the same night.
Yeah.
So, in the MRAC meeting, I think it gets to the point where we have some very good and very in-depth discussions about what goes on in the district and how we can all interact with one another, and so we will be coming to some more, be able to develop more solutions to some of the problems that are minor, but they still exist. So we'll do that. And of course, it's basketball season. This is my favorite time of the year.
She's ready to roll.
And I've already been to my first tournament, and I'm looking forward to completing the season all through the month of February, March, whatever. I love
March Madness.
high school basketball. So,
Okay, thank you. Mr. McFarland?
Nothing, thank you.
I have nothing.
Got a couple things. I want to salute one of our board members, Donna Moore. None of us knew this till we read the book. The Illinois School Board Conference, there was board members throughout the state that looked at the panels that were proposed to us up there at the conference, and Donna Moore was one of them. So I want to thank her for that, because I think you looked over 100 proposals. So there's less than 15 board members that were announced for that. So thank you. And then I also want to thank Mr. Neville at SJR. There's actually some positive things in the newspaper, so I'd like to thank you for that. Other than your buddy on the sports said about some other things, but that's a whole nother issue. So, but thank you, and we keep up the good work.
I had one school that I visited since we've had the last board meeting. That was Lindsay Elementary. One of the things that they're doing, and they're starting at actually kindergarten, first grade, and it's called Productive Student Talk. They're really hitting that very hard, and basically what that means is instead of the teacher standing up there giving students the answer, she will pose a question or he will pose a question. The students turn to each other, they have a partner, and they figure out the solution among themselves. And so I actually witnessed it in the second grade, and I know it wasn't done for my benefit, because all she had to do was, okay, turn to your partner and discuss, and they just turned and started talking to each other. It was great. So it was a great visit. They're doing a very nice job over there. Okay, now for discussion items. 4.1, does any school board member have any old business they'd like to bring up? No old business? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to 4.2, new business. Does any board member have any new business they'd like to discuss?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to say that the superintendent has given me some information. I'm curious about how our social workers and psychologists interact in the building. So I've got a list of those people now, but I'm still looking forward to the presentation.
Right, and
Because,
so we've got a team put together, and we'll get that put on the calendar for sure.
Okay. And then I might, I have a couple suggestions, I think, again, that I haven't told you about. You learn a little bit every time you do expulsions, and they're very hard to do. It's the worst part of the job. So I think we've come a long way this year, Mr. Sanders. Thank you. We have forms that basically describe what the incident was, and we have information on grades and those kind of things. But there are a couple things that could be perfected, maybe per building. I don't know how that's program is built into the beginning of the school year, but when you have change of administrators, maybe a little refresher might help.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, any other new business? Okay, hearing none. 4.3, student business. Did you want to add anything, Rosaline, to what you said before? Do you have any other student business you'd like to discuss?
I think more that this year with the roundtable, we really want to focus on getting something accomplished so that this year we can look at the list of things that we did, and then next year's roundtable students can look at that list and see what was left undone or that still needs to be completed and get something else accomplished. So throughout the years, we're not only setting goals, but we're actually accomplishing them.
Okay, great, thank you. We have no presentations to the board tonight, so now we'll go to 6.1, financial report.
Mr. Basco?
President Zimmers, members of the board, attached is a summary of revenue and expenditures for the month of November 2014 for the education and the operations and maintenance funds. An accounts receivable outstanding report is also attached. As of November, outstanding state payments totaled $3.3 million. For the month, Ed Fund revenues were $4.85 million and expenditures were $8.85. Expenditures exceeded revenues by $4 million. For the operations and maintenance fund, revenues were $314,500. Expenditures were $906,400. Expenditures exceeded revenues by $591,900.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or concerns, Mr. Basco? Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 7.1, superintendent's report.
All right. Well, I do have, I guess this is kind of wrapping up some old business. Board member Mrs. Moore had asked earlier when we did our annual achievement report to have some specific knowledge about how we compare to other school districts that have similar demographics to ours across the board, especially with low income status. And so we provided in your report tonight, and I'll just give a brief overview. The school districts that we chose to compare ourselves to were Urbana School District 116. They have approximately 69% low income, which is very similar to ours at 68%. Decatur School District 61 had 76% low income. Peoria School District 150 has 73%. Bloomington School District 87, which is the center of Bloomington Normal, had 56.5%. And Champaign Central School District 4 had 57.2. So those are the comparisons that we provided to you in your packets tonight. What we saw was that we were actually faring pretty well in comparisons to those districts, so we wanted to provide those to you tonight. For instance, in reading, or ISAT, and this is the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students' combined aggregate score, we had 5% who exceeded, 29% who were meeting at our district level, and the school district that is the most comparable to us in size of students that take the test is Peoria. They had 4,383 students take the test, and we had 4,430. So we're very good in comparison to them. We're just a few points away with our socioeconomic status and then also with the number of students, and they had 23% meeting and only 3% exceeding, so we were faring a little bit better than that. But when you look across the board, the only district that outperformed us was Bloomington School District 87 had 41% meeting and exceeding. So we're doing okay. It's not a number that we like to say that number is doing well. I think it's just something that in bringing this to you in comparison, that was the question you had, is how are we doing in comparison to school districts that have the same type of demographic structure as us, and that was for reading. And then when you went into math, the scores were very similar to the reading levels, where we had 38% meeting and exceeding. Peoria had 27% meeting and exceeding. Again, Bloomington District 87 had 41% meeting and exceeding. Like Urbana School District had only 26% meeting and exceeding with those low-income numbers in the math area. So that was for the ISAT overall. For the science, we had 59% of our fourth graders meeting and exceeding in the low socioeconomic area, where other districts were in that similar, most of them were just a little bit below us, 45% for Peoria. For their science scores. And then when we got into the Prairie State assessment, which is taken by juniors, the reading, we had 32%, where Peoria once again had the closest number of students taking that assessment with 483. We had 452. We had 32% of our students meeting and exceeding where we would want them to be on the Prairie State assessment, where they had 27. So, we were in keeping with the school districts across the board. In fact, the scores were almost, if you averaged them together, it would be very similar across all 6 of those districts that we provided reports to you on tonight. So did that kind of satisfy your interest in that?
Yeah, it does.
We had to wait until the report cards came out to get that information publicly, so we hope that report helped.
Yeah, it's good.
It doesn't mean we don't have a lot of work to do, and we talk about that at our teaching and learning all the time. We know that improving our engaged learning and really looking at our environment and our culture for learning in the schools are going to help that, and that kind of segues me into our Rising Star. Did you have any other questions before I move on?
Real quick, I have one.
Sure.
Just eyeballing this, it looks like there's a significant correlation between mobility and graduation rate. Are we seeing that in other districts that you maybe have seen through LUDA and everything else? Is that a correlation that sticks? And if so, what are other districts doing to kind of combat that when they have a high mobility rate?
Yes, you know what, when you do look at that, you can see that. The problem is with mobility is, once again, it's usually mobility outside the district coming into our district, and you have different coursework, and you have to make sure that those line up, and you might have different amounts of credits that were required in one district, and then coming into our district, once again, we have pretty high graduation requirements at 26 out of 28 courses that you take in high school. So there are those kind of things that you look at when you have the mobility. So I think that any time a student's moving around a great deal of time during their high school career, it's hard for them to stay on track for graduation, especially if they're struggling with other concerns. Any other questions? Well, so every time the schools embark on kind of our school improvement planning process, and our school improvement plan is called a Rising Star Plan. So the district creates a Rising Star Plan, and each individual school then creates a Rising Star Plan, and the instructional leadership teams, alongside the teachers in the building, look at all of the data sources that they have, and they create their Rising Star plan based on indicators that are already provided, that are based on best practice in the field of education for that grade level. So there are indicators that talk about conditions for learning, assessment practices, instruction that's engaged for students, professional development for teachers. And so we've have our 3 district goals, and then we've asked each school to also focus on 3 goals that can kind of be hung off of each one of our district goals. And the way we do this is we have the principals come in and we teach them the process. They take that back to their instructional leadership teams, and then they take that back to their faculty meetings and get input, come back to their ILT teams and really write those goals. And then they also share them with all of us who supervise the principals and the schools out in the district, so that we can kind of be on the same page for what we're doing with of Teaching and Learning in our district. So I can't take credit for any of this. This is my Teaching and Learning department who's sitting over there with Mrs. Boozer, Mrs. Morrison, Mrs. Morris, and then myself. And we really work hard to supervise our principals. And then also Mr. McVeigh and our Title I program, our Title I goals for each of our Title I schools are nested in this, so that's a real intertwined and integrated approach. In the past, schools used to have to write a different Title I plan and a different school improvement plan, and now we've really streamlined that approach and they're interwoven together. So our three big goals this year are: the district will work with the school to provide early and intensive intervention for students who are not making progress. And we know that when we meet the students at the door with understanding of where they are in their learning process and what they need to do to improve, and we make sure that we have the programs in place, that our students are going to grow and be successful. So some things that we're working on along those terms, and we're really looking at the problem-solving model. When students show signs of not making progress, we bring them to the table, we look and see what we can do to support those students. Backwards planning. We're constantly coming to the table and looking at where we want to be with our end goals and our learning practice, and making sure that the teachers are scaffolding their assignments and their curriculum to meet that end goal. We're really focusing on student growth, and not just attainment of where they are at a given point in time, but how they're growing in their own learning. And we've been getting more and more information and professional development on that at the schools, so that we're really making that student growth model work to our benefit. Lucy Calkins' writing curriculum is now kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. So we're seeing the same type of language, the same type of information being presented in the same way across all of our schools. We did not have a consistent writing curriculum that everybody was using K-8 until recently. So we had, this is second year, Mrs. Boozer, correct, with the Lucy Calkins, and the first year with middle school. So our middle school students, they're in 6th grade, they had it in 5th grade, now they have that same knowledge, that same language. So our writing curriculum has really improved because of that consistency across the grade levels. So we really think it will give us big bang for our buck in the future. Also, common assessments have been created in literacy, math, science, and writing, and that's given across all schools, the same assessment, so we can really make sure that all the teachers are teaching the same goals and objectives, and then assessing students in the same way throughout the year. So that's very helpful. We're really looking at getting regular data reports out to our schools, and I thank our assessment coordinator and our Department of Teaching and Learning, who are helping our schools really get the data in their hands and be able to look at that in the right way to then affect student growth. And really looking at our problem-solving data, really not only just around academics, but making sure that we have a really kind of a 360-degree view of a school, looking at behavior for our regular ed, our special needs students, as well as our academic goals, so that we can make sure that we're addressing those. So those are our big goals that we have around our first goal. The second goal is the district will monitor to ensure the intended curriculum is implemented with fidelity. We know that we have to check on what we expect in our classrooms each and every day. So we know that as a district, our Department of Teaching and Learning, we know that we have to talk with our principals. Our principal in turn have to talk with our teachers. And with our collaborative planning, our teachers are holding each other accountable by having those conversations and really working together. So now we feel that with that added component of the collaboration each week, that we have a real good through line to making sure that we check on what we expect and that our curriculum is implemented with fidelity. And we've had a lot of great professional development, for instance, with the writing curriculum, to make sure that we're all on board and we understand how to teach that curriculum, and we're using the consistent language with students across our district. Really, that talks about the common assessments, looking at those across the district and making sure that we're seeing where our student growth is. High school teachers are giving common literacy assessments aligned to the standards twice a year, so that we're all the teachers are teaching on the same path. Our ILTs are learning how to write their own assessments and become better being able to look at assessments that have already been written in the textbook and change those to make those even better assessments to meet our goals and our learning. And then we've been really looking at our new Illinois State Learning Standards and really kind of unpacking them and learning once again what that content is in the standards, so that we can really prepare our students for the next level and the assessments that they're required to take. So we really have been working very hard to develop a plan of curriculum fidelity across our system. We also, our third goal then is the district will ensure the delivery of curriculum is differentiated to meet the needs of all learners. And this is something that we know we're really on a path of getting better across all of our schools at making sure that we're using the gradual release of responsibility where we're really bringing the students into that conversation and having the students really be active learners and part of that engagement in their classrooms. We're providing a lot of professional development on formative assessment. We know that we give the end of the unit assessment, and we know that we're really good at taking those big bucket tests, but here's what we know is that when students are given formative information about their progress during that unit of instruction, that's when you're going to get the biggest bang for their learning, because if they know along the way that they're not quite there, instead of waiting to get that end of unit assessment that says they didn't do so well, that they're going to do a lot better as they move forward. So we've been very, very focused on that with our symposiums that Mrs. Boozer and a team of great educators have designed. So it's been a conversation ongoing. And the ILTs, once again, are really learning to write their own assessments that are linked to our new Illinois State Learning Standards. And all of that learning then goes back, when we have that professional development at symposium, it goes back to the ILT, and it's a job of the ILT to take that back to the teachers and have that conversation. These may seem lofty, but this is what we know as a Department of Teaching and Learning, and what I know sitting in this seat is what has to happen for us to improve our student achievement across the district. And we have been on this journey for some time, so we've had some tasks that we put forth in 2012. We had some that they put forth in 2013, and we've even honed that more, and we're continuing this conversation around the environment that we want to have for our students in the classroom each and every day, and the engagement that we want to see in our students, and the assessment practices that we want to have to really hopefully inform great practice in our classroom. So it's not an easy task, and it's a little bit at a time, but we know we're going to be able to get there. So those are our three big goals, and then the schools have all written their individual goals as well, and we did provide those to you in your packets today. And that's what we use when we go out and talk to the schools about their progress. So feel free to ask them about their Rising Star goals when you go out and talk with them. They own them, they're proud of them, they're not a piece of paper that just sits on a shelf. They're a living, breathing document. Mrs. Morris, thank you for all the training that you've done with the schools to really understand how to write a good goal. They're all specific, they're all measurable. They all have a vision with what good would look like, and what if we achieve this goal, what would it look like, and the steps that they're taking along the way to get there are actually outlined. So they have actual tasks that they've decided to do. They have people assigned to those tasks, and then they have to go actually in and provide evidence that they've achieved those tasks and are moving towards new and even more improved tasks in the future. So that's kind of the way that we write our school improvement plans and keep things on track with the academic focus in our buildings, and also pieces that are conditions for learning, which really think about that culture, which is really what we talked about with Ms. Iwa about the whole idea of the PBIS and building that culture for learning and having students really involved in the process. And believe me, they filled my ears with some other things that she didn't even bring up tonight from the roundtable about things that really to help and support a culture in a school setting. So that's kind of the overall report tonight. Did you have any questions about Rising Star? I didn't do a big PowerPoint, Mr. Lopez. Was that good?
You were good.
All right.
Yeah, so since you didn't do a big PowerPoint, whatever your notes are, could you share those with us? I see
Yes.
the individual plans, but
Sure. The district
I
goals.
like
Okay.
to digest them myself.
Sure.
rather
No
than
problem.
decide.
No problem. Because it was on that. Yeah, okay. I'll make sure you get those three goals then set together. Yeah.
Is there for superintendent's report?
Well, I did have just a couple shout outs that were pretty exciting. The 7th grade students at Lincoln Magnet School the other day, and it was highlighted in the paper, so thank you. They hosted something called Our Land, Our Future, and it was really their challenge-based learning project that they put together. It was the first year the school sponsored this exhibit. Students focused on sustaining and protecting land resources. So they had a lot of parents and community members there, but they had some partners that they work with that I wanted to thank. Ameren, Beekeeper Sinclair, the Illinois State Fair, Illinois Stewardship Alliance, Lincoln Memorial Gardens, Southwind Park, and Springfield Green were programs that kind of helped them develop their challenge-based learning project and really, help the students see that it's a big community issue when they're talking about this. Just big congratulations to the Sandburg Singers and the Isles Swinging Singers who had performances this week at the Festival of Trees. It's great to see our schools out there, and I saw a lot of great trees decorated. Inc. 186 had a tree that was done by the students where they made the buttons, and several other schools had, I think all of our middle schools had a large tree that they decorated and worked on in several elementary schools. And really, I had the pleasure of having Thanksgiving feast all week last week. I had two different opportunities to go to Lee School and eat with their students, and also Southeast High School, where we had wonderful meeting. Families come together with the life skills class. They cooked the meal, they learned about the meal, they invited their families in and invited a lot of the district administrators in to eat and share a meal with them, and I got to meet with so many families. And once again, I just want to say thank you to Southeast and Lee for their invitations for that. And it would be hard for me not to just give a shout out to my neighboring communities, Williamsville, SHG, and Rochester, for their great football seasons, and congratulations to all of them. They played their hearts out, and someday we'll be there amongst them. That's all I have to say about that. So, yeah.
Okay, now consent action items. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Gill, 8.1 through 8.5.
President Zimmers, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent action items 8.2 through 8.5 as described in the corresponding resolutions.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
McFarland,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Zimmers,
Aye.
Funderburg. Aye. That is 6 aye votes, the motion carries.
Okay, and on to roll call items.
Mrs. Sherman?
Okay. President Zimmers and members of the board, the superintendent recommends adoption of the personnel recommendations with the following changes. Page 1, letter A, certified resignations. Item 1, the position should be kindergarten. Page 2, letter C, item 1, the effective date should be 10/10/2014. Page 2, letter C, item 5, the effective date should also be 10/10/2014. Page 3, letter F, item 1, FTE of the position should be .5 at a salary of $691.
Okay, thank you. And request a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Lopez,
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
That is 6 aye votes.
Okay, on to 9.2, student discipline.
President Zimmers and members of the board, it is my recommendation that one 8th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Grant Middle School through the end of the 2014-15 school year with a program, and that one 11th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Springfield High School through the end of the 2014-15 school year with a program, and that one 9th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Lanphier High School through the end of the 2014-15 school year with a program.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Funderburg. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
That is 6 aye votes.
We do have public participation tonight. Before I do that, I want to take the opportunity, because we've kind of been handing out kudos here. I'd like to thank Bruce Rushton for the very nice article he did on our superintendent. I thought it was a really positive article. It kind of shows where she's coming from, where she wants to take us, and I just, I appreciate it on behalf of the school board. I thought it was a very nice article.
And my high school picture was in the paper,
And our high
so
school
you
picture.
enjoyed that.
That's right.
Yes,
And
I had braces
There's
my
one of
senior
several
year.
he could have put in there. He chose to put probably the best of the choices.
I hope. That
right?
was more of a professionally done photo, yes. That was better.
Before we do the public participation, it's been quite a while since we've had this, so I kind of need to go over a couple of ground rules. You are limited to 3 minutes. I want to remind people, not only tonight, but anytime we have public participation, I would ask you not to use names of school employees in your talk, because more than likely, when this happens, they're not here to defend themselves. So I would like to make sure that we do not specifically use names. So this evening, I'd like to welcome Mr. Gary Pierce, a parent in the school district. I'd like to address the board.
First of all, I want to say hello to all you on the board. I want to say that I appreciate Jennifer Beal. I saw your article, and actually it was kind of like a confirmation for me to come here tonight, because I had been praying about it. Then when I saw your face when I was at the county market, I said, okay, thank you, Lord. That's why I decided to come on in here. And to you, Judith Johnson, all the work you do and the way you support the parents, I appreciate you. I also appreciate the fact that whenever I call you or I email you if I have a concern, that you get back to me. And the same with Mr. Zimmers. Even though you neither one of you represent my district, I like the way you respond if I call you if I have a concern, because I can't get in touch with Mr. Flamini. He never answers my call, and I know it was not fair. He's not here. I was hoping he was going to be here. I would have said the same thing. And he never gets back to me on emails when I have a concern. So then that leads me to you two. So I want to say, I just wanted to make sure I covered those bases. Okay? And even though I'm a minister, I still get nervous in front of people. Okay, but I'm going to read this verse because it's been on my mind. From Mark 9:42, it says, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them if a large millstone were hung around their neck and they were thrown into the sea. Okay? And that's for our educators and all those who work with children. I've been working with children for 30 years, and even before I had my home, and I've always tried to do my best, to do the best I can for them and their parents. Even when I had a little short stints with the district, I've always answered the calls from the parents and spent times, maybe even hours talking to them, and even spent time on my own working with children. Those who know me in the community know what I've done. And some of those people appreciate it and some don't. It doesn't matter. I don't do it for them, I do it for him. I'm here because parents have a concern, and when they have a concern, and they go into the schools, they want to be able to go into those schools and not worry about being escorted out by security or being disrespected or being not heard because they got something that they don't want to hear. That they're saying something that they don't want to hear. And I'm just representing the parents, and I'm going to try to be careful about saying some things, but I'm one of those parents that have a concern with the issue. And I've already addressed that with the superintendent, and I've talked to Mr. Zimmers about it, and they have responded well. But unfortunately, you can't get no response in the schools. And this, I'm going on the broad base, I'm trying not to name schools. But, you know, you should be able to walk into the schools and say to the principal of the school, hey, I need to talk to you about something. And they need to hear your concern, and then they should do something about it. That was one of the reasons why I ran for the board, because I would like to see that change. A parent should not have to worry about repercussions for speaking their mind or saying something that they don't agree with. There should never be no repercussions for that. And you know, that's wrong. And I know you have the PTA and you have all these different things. I'm going past my 3 minutes. I'm not a long-winded minister, so.
Julie's got the official clock.
Okay, but I want to make sure I cover everything. If I'm talking too fast, I just want to cover some of the things. I didn't write down no notes or anything like that. I don't do that even when I preach. But I'm just saying that it's unfortunate that I even have to come before you all. I even have to contact my representative for a concern that I have as a parent in the school. And I know I don't just speak for myself. I know I speak for a lot of parents that are not as bold as me to come and say that. And believe me, I don't want to be here. I'd rather be at a precinct committee man meeting right now. That's very important. But my family is important too. And I just think it's not right that we have to suffer repercussions because we speak out as parents about some things we don't agree with. And I know I speak for a lot of people. I know, and I'm just saying that I know it's a lot of them out there. They came to me, and I've actually accompanied them to these meetings, but they're afraid to come because they're afraid of the repercussions. So I just want to say that I think you need to do something about that. I think you need to let your principals know, as well as some of your teachers and administrators, that the parents should have a right to speak, and that there should be, the way it says in the word, you should gather together to talk these things out before they get out of hand. And there should not be no repercussions, especially to a child. If you have a problem with the parent, bring it to the parent. That's the way I work. If I got a problem with you as an adult, I'm gonna come to you. I'm not gonna bother you with a child. I'm not gonna make your child suffer because I got something against you. And then, to me, that's immature and ignorant.
I've got your specific letter, so I appreciate that as
So
well.
I don't appreciate them taking things out on my children. And it got so far that I got one more, and I'm even thinking about putting them in private school because of that. I'm thinking about taking them out and putting them in private school next year. Spend my hard-earned money, giving it to a private school. And I shouldn't have to do that, so that my kid can be safe and he can go there and be treated fairly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr.
I appreciate it,
Mills.
and thank you for your
I think you'll see-
specifics.
you'll hear from me again.
I appreciate your specifics. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
Okay, that's the close of our meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Our next scheduled board meeting will be December the 15th at 6:30. See you then.
Thank you.